If you're over 60 years old and you've been noticing that climbing stairs feels harder than it used to, that carrying groceries exhausts you, or that you're losing muscle mass despite eating what you think is enough, the problem might not be your exercise routine. It might be something missing from your breakfast plate. And what's shocking is that most people over 60 are unknowingly making this mistake every single morning, accelerating muscle loss and fatigue without even realizing it. I'm Dr. Michael Turner, a geriatric medicine specialist, and over my 23 years working with older adults, I've seen thousands of patients struggle with declining strength and energy. And time again, I've discovered that one simple addition to their breakfast routine can make a dramatic difference in how they feel, how they move, and how they live their lives. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip made especially for you. If you enjoy this video, please leave your questions and suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help more people just like you. Now, let me tell you about something that happened in my clinic just 3 months ago. Mrs. Eleanor Patterson, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Portland, came to see me with a concern that's becoming all too common. She told me, with tears in her eyes, that she could no longer play with her grandchildren the way she used to. She said she felt weak, exhausted by noon, and noticed her clothes fitting looser, but not in a good way. She was losing muscle, not fat. Eleanor had always been active, walked regularly, did her gardening, but something had changed. When I asked about her diet, she proudly told me about her healthy breakfast: oatmeal with banana and a glass of orange juice. Sounds perfect, right? Actually, it was missing the single most critical component for maintaining muscle mass and energy as we age. The truth is, after 60, your body goes through significant changes in how it processes nutrients, particularly one essential nutrient that most people dramatically underestimate. And here's what shocked me throughout my career. Approximately 70% of adults over 60 are not getting enough of this crucial element at breakfast, the time when your body needs it most. This isn't about following a fad diet or buying expensive supplements. This is about understanding what your aging body actually needs to maintain strength, independence, and vitality. What Eleanor and millions of others were missing was adequate protein at breakfast. Now, I know what you're thinking. I eat protein, I have my oatmeal, my toast, my cereal. But here's the scientific reality that changes everything. After age 60, your muscles become what we call anabolically resistant. This means your body requires significantly more protein to trigger the same muscle building response that happened naturally when you were younger. While a younger person might need about 15 to 20 grams of protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, someone over 60 needs closer to 25 to 30 grams per meal, and especially at breakfast. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening inside your body when you don't get enough protein in the morning. Throughout the night, while you sleep, your body enters a fasted state. Your muscles are essentially being broken down to provide amino acids for various bodily functions. This is normal and happens to everyone. But here's the crucial part. When you wake up, your body desperately needs protein to rebuild and maintain that muscle tissue. If your breakfast is mostly carbohydrates, like toast, cereal, pastries, or fruit, you're not giving your muscles the building blocks they need. Instead, you're just refueling your energy stores without repairing the muscle breakdown that occurred overnight. Day after day, month after month, year after year, this creates a gradual but devastating muscle loss called sarcopenia. Let me share another case that really illustrates this point. Mr. Robert Chen, a 68-year-old retired engineer from San Francisco, came to my office last year complaining of constant fatigue and multiple falls. Robert was a methodical man, very precise, always followed rules. He'd been eating the same breakfast for 30 years, 2 slices of white toast with jam and a cup of coffee. Maybe 300 calories, but less than 6 grams of protein. When I examined him, his muscle mass was significantly below what it should be for someone his age and height. He'd lost nearly 15 pounds of muscle over 5 years without even realizing it. His legs were noticeably thinner, his grip strength was weak, and he'd become increasingly unsteady on his feet. Robert told me something that broke my heart. He said, "Doctor, I used to build things with my hands. I used to fix things around the house, help my neighbors, feel useful. Now I can barely open a jar. My wife has to help me up from low chairs. I feel like I'm becoming a burden." This is the real human cost of inadequate protein intake, especially at breakfast. It's not just about numbers on a scale or scientific measurements. It's about independence, dignity, quality of life, and being able to do the things you love with the people you love. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, comment protein below to show me you're following along. I want to make sure this message reaches as many people as possible. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something that surprised even me when I first learned about it during my fellowship in geriatric nutrition. The timing of protein intake matters almost as much as the total amount. Multiple studies have shown that distributing protein evenly across all 3 meals is far more effective for maintaining muscle mass than eating most of your protein at dinner, which is what most Americans do. Think about the typical American diet: a carb-heavy breakfast, maybe a sandwich for lunch, and then a big protein-focused dinner. But by the time dinner comes around, you've already spent the entire day in a muscle-degrading state because you didn't provide adequate protein when your body needed it most, right at breakfast. Your muscles are like a bank account. Every time you eat adequate protein, you're making a deposit. Every hour you go without adequate protein, especially after the overnight fast, you're making a withdrawal. If you're only making one big deposit at dinner, you're spending most of your day in deficit. This is why breakfast protein is so crucial. It stops the overnight muscle breakdown, initiates muscle repair and building, and sets a positive tone for the entire day's metabolism. Let me tell you about Mrs. Sandra Martinez, a 75-year-old widow from Miami who completely transformed her life with this simple change. Sandra had been struggling with declining mobility for 3 years. She'd stopped going to her dance classes, something she'd loved for 40 years, because she felt too weak and tired. Her daughter brought her to me, worried that her mother was giving up on life. Sandra's typical breakfast was a small bowl of corn flakes with skim milk and half a grapefruit, barely 10 grams of protein. Her muscle mass was in the critical range, and she was at high risk for frailty and disability. I sat down with Sandra and explained everything I'm sharing with you now. We made one simple change. We redesigned her breakfast to include 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein. She started having Greek yogurt with nuts and berries, sometimes scrambled eggs with vegetables, occasionally a protein-enriched smoothie with cottage cheese. That was it. One meal changed. Within 6 weeks, Sandra told me she felt different. She had more energy in the morning, felt steadier on her feet, could walk longer without fatigue. Within 3 months, she'd regained noticeable muscle mass, her grip strength improved by 30%, and here's the beautiful part. She went back to her dance classes. When I saw her for her 6-month follow-up, she came dancing into my office, literally, with her dance partner, a 78-year-old gentleman she'd met at class. She told me, "Doctor, you gave me my life back. I thought I was just getting old and there was nothing I could do about it." But if that story inspired you, wait until you hear what else proper breakfast protein can do for your body. Beyond just muscle mass, adequate protein intake in the morning has profound effects on multiple systems. First, it significantly improves your blood sugar control. When you eat protein with your breakfast, it slows down the absorption of any carbohydrates you consume, preventing those blood sugar spikes and crashes that leave you feeling tired and hungry mid-morning. This is especially important if you have diabetes or prediabetes, which affects nearly half of adults over 60. Second, protein increases satiety, that feeling of fullness and satisfaction, much more effectively than carbohydrates or fats. This means you're less likely to overeat later in the day or reach for unhealthy snacks. Many of my patients who increase their breakfast protein naturally lose excess body fat without feeling hungry or deprived. They're not on a diet, they're simply giving their body what it needs, and their appetite naturally adjusts. Third, and this is fascinating, protein has what we call a thermic effect. Your body actually burns more calories digesting and processing protein compared to carbohydrates or fats. About 25 to 30% of the calories in protein are used just to digest it, compared to only 5 to 10% for carbohydrates. This means that by eating more protein at breakfast, you're naturally boosting your metabolism for hours afterward. Let me share a case that really demonstrates the metabolic benefits. Mr. James Sullivan, a 64-year-old former police officer from Boston, came to me struggling with prediabetes, low energy, and stubborn weight gain around his midsection, despite exercising regularly. James had been eating a typical breakfast of bagel with cream cheese or cereal with whole milk. Lots of calories, very little protein. His morning blood sugar would spike, then crash by mid-morning, leaving him craving more carbs and starting a vicious cycle. We transformed his breakfast to include 30 grams of protein, either a 3-egg omelet with vegetables and cheese, or a protein-rich smoothie with Greek yogurt, protein powder, spinach, and berries. Within just 2 weeks, James reported that he no longer experienced the mid-morning energy crash. His cravings for sweets disappeared. Within 3 months, his fasting blood sugar normalized. He'd lost 12 pounds of body fat while actually gaining muscle mass, and his energy throughout the day was better than it had been in years. He told me, "I can't believe something as simple as changing my breakfast made such a dramatic difference. I thought I needed medication, but I just needed the right food." Now, you might be wondering, what exactly should I be eating for breakfast to get that 25 to 30 grams of protein? Let me give you specific, practical examples that you can start implementing tomorrow morning. One of the easiest and most versatile options is eggs. 3 large eggs give you about 18 grams of high-quality protein. Add some cheese, and you're at 25 grams. If you're concerned about cholesterol, and many of my patients are, let me ease your mind with some updated science. For most people, dietary cholesterol from eggs does not significantly impact blood cholesterol levels. The old recommendation to limit eggs has been revised. Even the American Heart Association now says that healthy adults can safely include eggs as part of a nutritious diet. Greek yogurt is another excellent option. 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt contains about 20 grams of protein. Add some nuts or seeds, maybe some chia or hemp seeds, and you're easily at 25 to 30 grams. Plus, you get the benefits of probiotics for gut health, calcium for bone health, and it's incredibly convenient. Cottage cheese is similar with about 25 grams of protein per cup. I've had patients who blend it into smoothies, mix it with fruit, or even use it in savory preparations with vegetables and herbs. If you prefer a drink in the morning, protein smoothies can be an excellent option, especially if you have trouble eating solid food early in the day, which is common as we age. A smoothie with protein powder, Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, some milk or milk alternative, a handful of spinach, and some frozen berries can easily provide 30 grams of protein while also giving you fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. The key is to make sure you're using a high-quality protein powder. Whey protein is excellent if you can tolerate dairy. Plant-based proteins like pea protein, hemp protein, or blends can work well too, though you may need slightly more to get the same amino acid profile. Meat and fish are also options. I have patients who eat leftover chicken, turkey, or salmon for breakfast. It might seem unusual in American culture, but in many parts of the world, savory, protein-rich breakfasts are the norm. A small grilled chicken breast or a piece of baked salmon can provide 25 to 30 grams of protein and can be paired with vegetables for a very satisfying meal. Let me tell you about Mrs. Helen Richardson, a 70-year-old retired nurse from Seattle who struggled with chronic fatigue and muscle weakness despite being generally healthy. Helen was a dedicated breakfast eater, but her meals were classic American fare: pancakes with syrup, French toast, muffins, bagels, always with fruit and juice. She thought she was eating well, starting her day with energy, but she was starting her day with sugar and refined carbs, almost no protein. By 10 in the morning, she'd crash, need coffee and a snack, and the cycle would repeat. When I explained the protein concept to Helen, she was skeptical. She said, "Doctor, I've been eating breakfast this way my whole life. Why would I need to change now?" I explained that her body's needs have changed even if her habits haven't. We worked together to redesign her breakfast. She started making protein pancakes using protein powder, eggs, and oats. She topped them with Greek yogurt instead of syrup, added nuts and berries. She told me it was actually more delicious than her old breakfast, more satisfying, and she felt full until lunch without any cravings or energy dips. Within 2 months, Helen's fatigue improved dramatically. She had energy to take longer walks, return to volunteer work she'd given up, and she noticed her muscle tone improving. She told me at her follow-up, "I feel like I turned back the clock 10 years. I didn't realize how much I'd been struggling until I started feeling better. This is what adequate protein can do. It doesn't just prevent decline, it can actively restore function and vitality." But here's something critical that many people get wrong, and I want to make sure you understand this. Quality matters as much as quantity. Not all protein sources are created equal, especially for older adults. High-quality proteins contain all the essential amino acids your body needs, particularly one called leucine, which is the primary trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Animal proteins like eggs, dairy, meat, and fish are complete proteins with high leucine content. Plant proteins can work too, but you often need larger portions or combinations to get the same effect. This doesn't mean you have to eat animal products if you're vegetarian or vegan, but it does mean you need to be more strategic. Combining different plant proteins throughout the day, like beans with rice, or using soy products, which are complete proteins, or supplementing with a high-quality plant-based protein powder can help you meet your needs. The key is to be intentional and track your protein intake, especially at breakfast, to make sure you're hitting that 25 to 30 gram target. I also want to address a concern I hear frequently from my patients, especially women. Many worry that eating more protein, particularly at breakfast, will make them gain weight. This is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how metabolism works. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it keeps you full longer and reduces overall calorie intake throughout the day. When my patients increase their breakfast protein, they almost always naturally eat less at lunch and dinner, eliminate snacking, and often lose weight without trying. Remember Mr. Chen, the retired engineer I told you about earlier? When we increased his breakfast protein, he was worried about the calories. His old breakfast of toast and jam was about 300 calories. His new breakfast of 3 eggs with vegetables and cheese was closer to 400 calories. But here's what happened. He stopped needing his 10 o'clock snack, which was usually a muffin or cookies, about 300 calories. He ate a smaller lunch because he wasn't ravenous by noon. His afternoon energy slump disappeared, so he stopped reaching for candy or chips for a pick-me-up. Overall, he was eating fewer calories per day, building muscle, losing fat, and feeling infinitely better. The slightly higher calorie breakfast was actually the key to eating less overall and improving his body composition. If you're still with me and finding this valuable, leave a comment letting me know. Your engagement helps YouTube show this video to more people who need this information. Now, let's talk about some common obstacles and how to overcome them. The first obstacle I hear all the time is, "Doctor, I'm just not hungry in the morning. I can't eat a big breakfast." If this is you, you're not alone. Many older adults experience decreased appetite, especially in the morning. There are several strategies to work with this. First, start small. Don't try to go from no breakfast to a huge meal overnight. Begin with something manageable, like a protein smoothie or a cup of Greek yogurt. As your body adapts, you'll likely find your morning appetite increases. Second, consider the timing. You don't have to eat the moment you wake up. Some of my patients do better waiting an hour or two, having their coffee or tea first, letting their appetite develop. The important thing is to eat within 2 to 3 hours of waking up to stop the overnight muscle breakdown. Third, think about density. You can pack a lot of protein into a relatively small volume. A smoothie or a couple of eggs don't take up much space but deliver substantial nutrition. Another common obstacle is time. "Doctor, I don't have time to cook breakfast in the morning." I understand. Life is busy and routines are hard to change. But here's the truth. A protein-rich breakfast doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Greek yogurt with nuts takes 2 minutes. Hard-boiled eggs can be prepared ahead of time. A protein smoothie can be made in 5 minutes or even prepared the night before. Overnight oats with protein powder can be assembled in the evening and grabbed on your way out the door. There are many quick, convenient options that don't require elaborate cooking or significant time investment. Cost is another concern I hear. Protein is expensive. While it's true that some protein sources can be pricier than bread or cereal, let's look at the real economics. Eggs are still one of the most affordable protein sources available, usually less than $3 for a dozen. That's 25 cents per egg, under $1 for a 3-egg breakfast. Greek yogurt often goes on sale. Buying larger tubs is more economical than individual servings. Cottage cheese is typically affordable. Even canned fish like tuna or salmon can be budget-friendly and protein-dense. When you consider the health benefits and the potential to reduce medical costs down the line, investing in quality protein at breakfast is one of the best financial decisions you can make for your health. Let me share one more powerful story that really brings this all together. Mr. Thomas Brennan, an 81-year-old retired firefighter from Chicago, came to my clinic in a wheelchair. He'd suffered a fall 6 months earlier, fractured his hip, had surgery, but wasn't recovering well. He'd lost significant muscle mass during his recovery, was weak, depressed, and his family was considering moving him to a nursing home. They'd tried physical therapy, but Thomas was too weak to make meaningful progress. When I reviewed his diet, I found he was eating barely any protein, and almost none at breakfast. He'd been living on toast, juice, and coffee in the morning, soup for lunch, and small portions at dinner because his appetite was poor. I explained to Thomas and his family that without adequate protein, particularly at breakfast, his body simply couldn't rebuild the muscle he'd lost. We made a comprehensive plan, but the foundation was starting every single day with at least 25 grams of protein. His daughter began making him egg scrambles, Greek yogurt parfaits, protein smoothies. We also increased protein at his other meals, but breakfast was the anchor. Within 1 month, Thomas had noticeably more energy. Within 2 months, he was out of the wheelchair and using a walker. Within 4 months, he was walking independently with just a cane. Within 6 months, he'd regained most of the muscle mass he'd lost and returned to his beloved woodworking hobby in his garage. At his last visit, Thomas, now 82, walked into my office without any assistance, shook my hand with a firm grip, and said, "Doc, they were going to put me in a home. I thought my life was over. Now I'm living again, all because of breakfast." His daughter was in tears. I was honestly emotional too. This is why I do what I do. This is why I'm making this video. Because something as simple as eating the right breakfast can literally be the difference between independence and disability, between vitality and decline, between living and merely existing. So let's talk about what you should do next. First, I want you to honestly assess your current breakfast. Write down what you typically eat in the morning for the next few days. Then, using any nutrition tracking app or website, calculate how much protein you're actually getting. I think you might be surprised. Most people find they're getting less than half of what they need. Second, make a plan to gradually increase your breakfast protein. Choose 1 or 2 protein sources that appeal to you and that fit your lifestyle. Make them accessible. Keep them stocked in your kitchen. Third, aim for that 25 to 30 gram target every morning. Track it for the first few weeks until it becomes habit. You can use simple apps like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, or just keep a food journal. Fourth, be patient but consistent. You're not going to reverse years of muscle loss overnight, but you will start feeling better within weeks. More energy, better appetite control, improved mood, better sleep. The muscle mass improvements take longer, usually 2 to 3 months to notice significant changes, but the functional improvements come faster. Fifth, and this is crucial, combine your improved breakfast protein with resistance exercise. You don't need a gym membership or fancy equipment. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, light dumbbells at home, even just doing sit-to-stand exercises from a chair, all of this amplifies the benefits of your dietary protein. The protein provides the building blocks, but you need to give your muscles a reason to grow by using them. Even 10 to 15 minutes of simple strength exercises 3 times per week can make an enormous difference. Sixth, stay hydrated. As we age, our thirst sensation decreases, and many older adults are chronically dehydrated without realizing it. Adequate fluid intake is essential for protein metabolism, muscle function, and overall health. Aim for at least 6 to 8 glasses of water per day, more if you're active or it's hot weather. Finally, and I cannot stress this enough, work with your healthcare provider. If you have kidney disease, certain other medical conditions, or are taking specific medications, you may need individualized guidance on protein intake. Most people over 60 can and should increase their protein intake, especially at breakfast, but it's always wise to discuss dietary changes with your doctor, particularly if you have existing health conditions. I want to leave you with this final thought. Aging doesn't have to mean inevitable decline, weakness, and loss of independence. Yes, our bodies change, but we have far more control over how we age than most people realize. The choices you make every single day, starting with what you eat for breakfast, have profound and lasting effects on your strength, your energy, your mobility, and your quality of life. You're not powerless. You're not destined to become frail or dependent. You have the ability to take action right now, today, this very morning, to change your trajectory. Remember Mrs. Martinez dancing back into my office at 75? Remember Mr. Brennan walking again at 82? Remember Mr. Chen regaining his strength and independence at 68? These aren't miracles. These are the natural result of giving your body what it needs. And it starts with breakfast. It starts with protein. It starts with you making the decision that you deserve to feel strong, energetic, and capable for as many years as possible. So, tomorrow morning, I want you to do something different. Instead of your usual carb-heavy breakfast, make a conscious choice to prioritize protein. Have those eggs, that Greek yogurt, that protein smoothie. Notice how you feel 2 hours later, 4 hours later, at the end of your day. Pay attention to your energy, your mood, your appetite. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, give it a month. Track the changes. I think you're going to be amazed at the difference such a simple change can make. Your body is an incredible machine that wants to be strong, that wants to heal, that wants to thrive. You just need to give it the right fuel at the right time. And there's no better time than breakfast to set yourself up for a successful, energetic, strong day. Every morning is a new opportunity to invest in your health, your strength, and your future. Don't waste it on empty carbs and sugar. Choose protein, choose strength, choose vitality, choose the life you want to live. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with family or friends who might benefit, and let me know in the comments what you're planning to have for breakfast tomorrow. I read every comment and love hearing from you. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell for more evidence-based health information designed specifically for people over 60. Take care of yourself, start with breakfast, and I'll see you in the next video.